In a world where appearances dictate treatment, a simple woman in worn clothes is about to teach a prestigious bank the most expensive lesson they've ever learned about judging a book by its cover. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Sarah Jenkins walks into First National Bank wearing simple clothes, jeans, a worn sweater, and scuffed boots. Her hair is tied in a messy bun, and her face is bare of makeup. The bank is bustling with activity as customers line up at tellers' windows and account managers sit with clients in glass-walled offices. Sarah approaches the customer service desk where a young representative, Jessica, looks up with an automatic smile that barely masks her judgment of Sarah's appearance. "Good morning. I'd like to access my safety deposit box, please," Sarah says quietly, sliding her ID across the desk. Jessica glances at the ID, then back at Sarah with skepticism. "Do you have your key and access card?" she asks with an exaggerated slowness, as if speaking to someone who might not understand. Sarah nods and produces a small key from her pocket. "Yes, I have everything needed. Box 427. Jessica types something into her computer and raises her eyebrows. "Box 427? That's in our premium vault." She looks Sarah up and down once more. "Are you sure you have the right bank?" Sarah takes a deep breath, clearly used to this kind of treatment. "Yes, I'm quite certain. Could you please check your system? Sarah Jenkins, box 427. Jessica's face hardens as she looks at her screen again. "Ma'am, those boxes are reserved for our highest tier clients. There must be some mistake." By now, a security guard named Marcus has positioned himself nearby, watching the interaction with increasing interest. Several customers have turned to observe the scene unfolding. "There's no mistake," Sarah insists calmly. "If you could just call your manager, I'm sure we can sort this out." Jessica's lips purse tightly as she picks up her phone. "Mr. Davidson? There's a situation at customer service." She hangs up and gives Sarah a cold smile. "The branch manager is coming. He'll sort this out." Within minutes, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit approaches. "Is there a problem here?" he asks, looking directly at Jessica rather than Sarah. "This woman is claiming access to box 427 in the premium vault," Jessica explains. "I told her there must be some mistake." Mr. Davidson turns to Sarah with a patronizing smile. "Ma'am, our premium vault services are for established clients with significant holdings. Perhaps you're confused about which bank you use." Sarah remains composed despite the growing humiliation. "I am not confused. I have my identification, my key, and every right to access my safety deposit box. Could you please verify my information properly?" Mr. Davidson sighs dramatically. "Let me see your ID." He examines it briefly, then shakes his head. "Ms. Jenkins, even if you are in our system somehow, we have protocols about appropriate conduct and appearance in this establishment. I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to leave and return when you're better prepared to visit." Several customers gasp at the blatant discrimination. Sarah's face flushes with anger, but her voice remains steady. "Are you refusing me service because of how I look? Because I'm not wearing designer clothes or expensive jewelry? I'm refusing service because you don't meet the profile of our premium vault customers, and I have reason to believe you're attempting to access something that isn't yours," Mr. Davidson says firmly. "Security will escort you out." Marcus steps forward, taking Sarah by the elbow. "Ma'am, please come with me." "Take your hands off me," Sarah says, her voice finally rising. "You are making a terrible mistake." Mr. Davidson smirks. "The only mistake was letting you through the front door." "Marcus, please remove her from the premises." As Marcus begins leading Sarah toward the exit, the bank's glass doors swing open and a distinguished-looking man in his 50s enters. He's wearing an impeccably tailored suit and carries himself with natural authority. This is William Jenkins, though no one except Sarah recognizes him yet. William stops in his tracks, taking in the scene before him, his wife being physically escorted out by security. His expression darkens immediately. What exactly is happening? Here? William's voice cuts through the bank lobby like a knife, causing everyone to freeze. Mr. Davidson turns with an automatic smile reserved for wealthy-looking potential clients. Just a small security issue, sir. Nothing to concern yourself with. How can I help you today? William ignores him completely and walks straight to Sarah. Are you all right? He asks, his voice gentle as he takes her hand. Sarah smiles for the first time since entering the bank. They wouldn't let me access our box. Apparently, I don't look rich enough to be a customer here. A flicker of anger crosses William's face before he turns to address the now silent bank staff. I'm William Jenkins. This is my wife, Sarah Jenkins. We own Box 427, along with about 30% of this bank's total holdings. More importantly, I own the controlling interest in First National Banking Group. Mr. Davidson's face drains of color as recognition finally dawns. William Jenkins is not just any shareholder, he's the majority owner of the entire banking corporation, known for his hands-off approach and rare appearances at individual branches. Mr. Jenkins, we had no idea. Your wife didn't identify herself as... William raises a hand, silencing the stuttering manager. My wife shouldn't have to announce her connection to me to receive basic human respect and the services she's entitled to. She has all the required identification and access credentials. That should be enough for anyone. The lobby has gone completely silent as customers and staff alike watch the unfolding drama. Jessica stares at her computer screen, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Sarah prefers to dress comfortably and values simplicity. I admire that about her, William continues, his arm now protectively around his wife's shoulders. What I don't admire is a banking culture that judges customers by their appearance rather than their character. Mr. Davidson swallows hard. Of course, sir. A terrible misunderstanding. We'll access your safety deposit box immediately. That won't be necessary, William says coldly. Instead, I'd like you to gather your senior staff in the conference room. We're going to have a discussion about customer service policy and culture at this branch. He turns to the security guard. Marcus, isn't it? Please call corporate headquarters and tell them William Jenkins needs the HR director and chief of operations to join us by video conference in 30 minutes. The tension in the conference room was palpable as William Jenkins concluded the emergency meeting with the bank's senior staff. The faces around the table reflected a mixture of shame, anxiety, and revelation. Mr. Davidson's usual confidence had crumbled into a pallid mask of realization, his manicured hands trembling slightly as he closed his leather portfolio. The HR director from corporate headquarters, who had joined via video conference, finished taking notes on immediate policy changes to be implemented, while the chief of operations was already drafting a company-wide memo addressing discriminatory practices. William stood, buttoning his jacket with deliberate calm that belied the cold fire still burning in his eyes. I believe we understand each other, he said, his voice carrying the weight of authority that came not just from his position as majority owner, but from the moral high ground he now occupied. This isn't just about my wife, it's about recognizing that the measure of a person's worth isn't found in their clothing or their appearance, but in their character and dignity. Sarah, who had sat quietly throughout most of the meeting, now raised her gentle eyes to meet those of each person in the room. I've experienced this kind of treatment before, she said, her voice soft yet unwavering. Most people who look like me, who don't display obvious wealth, have. The difference is that most don't have someone like William to intervene. They simply leave, feeling smaller and less worthy than when they arrived. The branch manager, Mr. Davidson, attempted to speak, his words catching in his throat before finally emerging. Mrs. Jenkins, I want to personally apologize. There's no excuse for how you were treated. William's expression remained stern. You're right, there isn't. But there is a path forward, and it begins with genuine change, not just apologies. He turned to address the entire room. From this moment on, First National Bank will implement a comprehensive program designed to eliminate bias in customer service. We'll start with this branch as our pilot location. The sunlight streamed through the conference room windows, casting long shadows across the polished table as William outlined his vision. He detailed plans for diversity training that went beyond superficial compliance, speaking of empathy exercises, community engagement initiatives, and accountability metrics that would tie management bonuses directly to equitable treatment scores from customers of all backgrounds. As William spoke, Sarah watched the faces around the table transform. Some showed resistance, others revelation, but all were paying attention with an intensity that suggested his words were penetrating years of ingrained assumptions about who deserved their best service and who did not. Additionally, William continued, we will be establishing a scholarship fund for underprivileged students interested in finance and banking. I want to see the faces of our staff reflect the diversity of the communities we serve. This incident has made it clear that we have a long way to go in that regard. Jessica, the customer service representative who had first dismissed Sarah, had been invited to the meeting as well. She sat at the far end of the table, her earlier smugness replaced by a thoughtful frown. "May I say something?" she asked hesitantly. William nodded, giving her space to speak. "I realize now that I made assumptions about Mrs. Jenkins based solely on her appearance," Jessica admitted, her voice carrying a tremor of genuine regret. "I didn't even properly check her information before jumping to conclusions. That wasn't just unprofessional, it was wrong on a human level." Sarah offered a small, encouraging smile. Recognition is the first step toward change. The meeting concluded with specific assignments and timelines. As people filed out, William asked Mr. Davidson to remain behind. The three of them, William, Sarah, and the branch manager, sat in the newly emptied conference room, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken tension. "Robert," William said, using the manager's first name deliberately, "you've been with First National for nearly 15 years. Mr. Davidson nodded stiffly, his eyes fixed on a point just past William's shoulder. "Yes, sir. In that time, you've consistently met your financial targets. Your branch shows strong numbers quarter after quarter, but today has revealed a serious deficiency in your leadership." The manager's jaw tightened. "I understand that my behavior was inappropriate." "It wasn't just inappropriate," William interrupted. "It was emblematic of a culture you've allowed to flourish under your management, a culture that values appearance over substance, wealth over worth." Sarah placed a gentle hand on her husband's arm. "William, perhaps there's an opportunity here rather than simply a failure." Both men turned to look at her, surprise evident on their faces. "What do you mean?" William asked. Sarah leaned forward slightly. "Someone who has made a mistake and truly recognizes it can become the most powerful advocate for change. They understand both sides of the equation in a way others cannot." She turned her attention fully to Mr. Davidson. "You saw me as unworthy of basic respect because I didn't fit your image of success. That moment of judgment, I want you to hold on to it, to remember how easily you dismissed another human being. And then I want you to use that memory to fuel transformation." The silence that followed was profound. Mr. Davidson's eyes, previously evasive, now met Sarah's directly. For perhaps the first time, he was seeing her, not her clothes or her unpolished appearance, but the wisdom and compassion that radiated from within. "That's why," William continued, picking up the thread of his wife's thought, "instead of termination, which would be well within my rights, I'm offering you a different path. You'll be transferred to our training department, not as punishment, but with a purpose. You'll help develop our new customer service program, drawing from the painful lesson of today." Mr. Davidson's expression shifted from resignation to something approaching hope. "You want me to teach others based on my failure?" "I want you to teach others based on your transformation," William corrected. "If you're willing to undertake it." Outside the conference room, the bank had resumed its normal operations, though the atmosphere was subdued. Customers continued their transactions, unaware of the seismic shift occurring behind closed doors. Yet something had already changed. The security guard who had attempted to remove Sarah now held doors open with newfound attentiveness for every customer, regardless of their attire or appearance. An hour later, Sarah and William finally made their way to the premium vault, accompanied by a different representative who treated them with genuine respect rather than performative deference. The safety deposit box yielded what Sarah had come for: her grandmother's vintage jewelry collection, pieces that held value far beyond their considerable monetary worth. As she carefully placed the velvet pouch containing the heirlooms into her simple handbag, she reflected on the events of the day. Walking through the main lobby toward the exit, Sarah noticed subtle changes already taking place. The tellers made eye contact with every customer, not just those who appeared affluent. Jessica, back at her station, was taking extra time with an elderly gentleman whose weathered hands suggested a life of manual labor. Outside, the sunlight felt particularly warm on Sarah's face as they descended the bank's imposing stone steps. William's driver waited by their modest sedan, a personal choice that now felt particularly poignant in light of the day's events. "You didn't have to do all that," Sarah said as they settled into the back seat. "The policy changes, the scholarship fund, giving Robert a second chance. You could have simply fired everyone involved and moved on." William took her hand, his thumb tracing gentle circles on her palm. "That would have satisfied anger, not created change," he replied. "What happened today happens everywhere, every day, to people who don't have the advantage of being married to someone with influence." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "It's strange, isn't it, how people see what they expect to see? They looked at my clothes and assumed I didn't belong. They never once considered that my appearance might be a choice rather than a limitation." "That's precisely why your perspective is so valuable," William said. "You've always understood something that most people in our financial position forget, that the trappings of wealth often become a barrier to authentic human connection." As their car pulled away from the curb, Sarah gazed back at the imposing facade of First National Bank. "Do you think anything will really change?" she asked. William considered the question carefully before answering. "Institutional change is always challenging. Policies can be rewritten overnight, but shifting hearts and minds takes time and consistent effort. However, I believe we've planted a seed today." Sarah smiled, squeezing his hand. "Then we'll need to nurture it." "Indeed," William agreed. "That's why I've scheduled a follow-up visit in 1 month, unannounced, of course." Sarah's eyes sparkled with understanding. "And I suppose I'll be your advance scout again?" "If you're willing. You have a gift for seeing people as they truly are, not as they pretend to be for those they deem important." The car merged into the flow of traffic, leaving the bank behind. Sarah opened her bag and carefully removed one piece from her grandmother's collection, a simple silver locket with a barely visible inscription: "True worth lies within." "You know," she said, running her finger over the worn words, "my grandmother used to say that banking should be about 3 things: service, respect, and trust, for everyone who walks through those doors. She believed that money was simply a tool, not a measure of a person's value." William nodded. "A wise woman. I wish I could have met her." "She would have liked you," Sarah replied, "not because of your success or your position, but because you understand what truly matters." As they drove through the city, past people of all walks of life going about their daily business, Sarah contemplated the ripple effects of the morning's confrontation. One incident, one stand against discrimination, would not change the world. But it was a start, a reminder that sometimes the most profound lessons come from unexpected teachers, and that true change begins with the courage to see beyond appearances, to the humanity that connects us all. The locket caught the sunlight as she returned it to its pouch, sending a brief flash of light dancing across the car's interior. A small illumination, but powerful in its promise of transformation.